So the last thing we have to do about consumer preferences is to get a little technical and introduce what we call the slope of the indifference curve, or the marginal rate of substitution. And the marginal rate of substitution, which is always x for y, which is always kind of in the way of the slope, will be what will be the change, what will be what the consumer give off of one good, let's say y, every time the consumer gain one more good, x. Notice that since the indifference curve are always going to have a negative slope, this number, the marginal rate of substitution, is always going to be negative, which makes sense. The consumer always have to give up one of one good in order to consume more of the other good and remain equally happy. So let's see if we can calculate this. So what will be the marginal rate of substitution of this indifference curve from A to B? Well, from A to B, the marginal rate of substitution is going to be the 2y that the consumer is giving up in exchange for the one additional x. So it will have, it will be equal to essentially 2, minus 2 in this case, which is, again, it's the slope of the curve. And what is going to be the marginal rate of substitution from C to D? Well, from C to D, the marginal rate of substitution is going to be, well, the 0.5 units of y the consumer is giving up over the 2x the consumer is gaining. And again, this is a negative number. So in this case, it will be 0.5 over 2. Now notice that the marginal rate of substitution in absolute terms is higher at higher point of the curve when the consumer has very little x, and is smaller in absolute terms when the consumer has a lot of x. And again, this reflects the diminishing marginal utility assumption we made in the previous slide. The fact that the consumer is willing to give up less and less y for 1x as the consumer has more x. So the one thing you have to remember here is just the term, the marginal rate of substitution, is essentially the slope of the indifference curve, which also give you the rate at which the consumer give up y for x to remain equally happy.